officially going live.
My hair is
Officially.
Oh, I should say that better. I said that again. Hello, everyone, because I think I was muted the first time.
Happy Wednesday!
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Oh, yeah, so the first thing, the most important thing, we got this out of the way, starting off early. If at any point Devin sounds too loud, just let me know and I'll lower his volume. Okay, just let me know off the bat.
You know what? I feel like this is Devinist against me, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
You don't like being teamed up on by the other fellow streamers and the entire audience? Welcome to my Tuesday and Thursday nights.
I'm okay with it.
Wait, what are you saying? I team up on you?
You team up.
That's not true.
You and the audience team up against me.
That is not true.
Oh, I hate Toes My Bones.
Meg.
I hate Toes My Bones.
Meg, don't even. You know it's true.
Do you see the
I'm
audience?
always on Alex's side.
They're all like, Alex sounds a little loud today. The worst part is I don't even know. Like, if they're being serious, I wouldn't even know. At this point, now it's a thing.
They're my
sounds
peeps.
like you are.
They're my
From what
peeps.
I've
They're
heard.
totally messing with you. They're
Unemployed
my
lawyer says,
friend.
not even kidding. Okay, you know what? Fine, unemployed lawyer. We're gonna go ahead and lower the. Can I even lower the volume?
We are being serious.
No, no. Okay, well, I'm lowering.
I think you sound fine. I just listened to it.
I've lowered my mic a bit. Let me know.
I love this so much.
I hate everyone. I hate everyone.
I love this so much.
Properties. Yep. Do you that right? Okay.
That is much better. Now you are too low.
Oh, I hate all of you. I hate all of you. Okay. Good morning, Board Game Dave. Good morning, unemployed lawyer. Richard L. Too many bones. Tunes my bones.
Alex, it's good afternoon.
Bit too low for now. Good afternoon. That's right. Okay, we're gonna move it up a drop more, and then later we're gonna go ahead and hate all of you. Now turn down the picture. Dear Lord.
What's Alex saying? It's so quiet.
Welcome to the weekly live. It has not yet been renamed, but we do have fun names for other shows planned, apparently. There's going to be a show at some point that may or may not be this show, or maybe a different show called After This. Thanks to an audience member for posting that, which we think was so on point. What the show is, no idea. We'll discuss it after this. But past that, this is the weekly live. We're going to be going into a whole bunch of different things, starting off with, the games of the week. We have very special names for all these segments that I don't remember all of the names. We have special names for it, but we have What's on Our Table. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
We have What's on Our Table. We have Crowdfunding Corner, where we're going to be going over a few crowdfunding campaigns in between segments. And then we have the BGG Hotness, which has another name that I don't remember. I should have these listed. I should list these down. Do we know the name?
Zomer Drummond says my hair looks very nice like this, so thank you.
Ooh, thank you so much.
That is definitely
what was the question, Alex? Sorry. What was the question?
The question was what the name of our Board Game Geek Hotness review is.
Okay, so it's either hot or not, or hot takes and cooldowns, or a third to be named name that we haven't decided yet.
I don't love either. I like both of those. I don't love either, and one of them is my own suggestion, to be clear. But I want to be clear when I say I don't love it. I'm not like criticizing the team members. I'm criticizing
I don't love
my
it.
own
I don't,
name.
no, he is still criticizing us. It's just behind the scenes. It's
Yes,
different.
exactly. But either way, let's go ahead and start this off, starting off the bat with what's on our table. And I guess, Devin, you want to go first in this one?
Yeah, sure. In terms of what's on my table, the game that is in my mind right now is Unsettled, which you can see right there. So this is a game that we did not get the chance to play with the three of us while you guys were in town, and it is one that I played with our guests that came into town just the day before, or like the week before, and so I really had a good time with it. And I've kind of been not having the opportunity to play it, but I've had the expectation based off of my Vindication play, and also I love sci-fi themes and I love everything that this was promising, and I felt like for me it delivered. I think the writing is really witty. I think that the tasks that you have to do, I like the idea of taking combat out of sci-fi and fantasy themes entirely and just create, because to me, like, if you're on an alien planet, survival alone is difficult. Like, I mean, I'm thinking of the book by Andy Weir, The Martian, which I think is a superb book. Like, such a good book, and it really is. It's surviving on a place that doesn't want you to survive, and I think that Unsettled picks that up a notch with a lot of like sci-fi stuff going on.
You should read The Martian.
Sure.
Do you know why you should read The Martian?
Because it's about terraforming Mars?
Because it's all about potatoes.
I do love potatoes.
It's literally all about potatoes. The entire Martian can be summarized as like Mars and potatoes.
Does he boil them, mash them, and stick them in a stew?
I'm pretty sure he made them in his own manure.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, Meg, you should like read that after this.
Potatoes. Someone said potatoes.
It was indeed potatoes. That is indeed. It's definitely a new way. He didn't boil them, mash them, and put them in a stew. He pooped and made potatoes in them.
Yes, he used his feces for fertilizer. Which is pretty epic if you ask me. So yeah, no, I think Unsettled is remarkable. I've only played one task. We did succeed, though I think we gave ourselves a little bit too much dilation up on the focus die than we were supposed to for our player count, just based off of a little bit of the rules. When it's telling you what to do, tells you to put all of your focus die to 2, but then when you actually go to player count, it's different based off of player count. So, we cheated. But
gotcha.
If you know me, that's normal.
If it helps, I don't remember the mistake I made the first game. I don't remember that, but I do remember that after playing the first game, where someone else taught me the rules, generally my go-to is to read the rules myself after I've been taught the rules, and
that's what
I did that, and I found out that we had been doing something wrong. I don't remember what it was. I remember it made the game easier for us. That's all I have. I think it was about resource generation. I think there was a limit to the way... I think you couldn't generate resources on a tile that already had resources.
The limit does not exist.
You can't... Yeah, you can't... Like, if you already have the data cubes or you already have the materials, if you already have that one on that tile, you can't get that type on that tile until it's all gone.
And so I think we were generating them on tiles, which gave us more efficient collection actions because you could grab more at once. So we were cheating. But yeah, either way, go ahead.
Gotcha.
My point is we cheat together in Unsettled.
Yeah, no, I think that we cheat at everything, and I really like Unsettled.
Particularly Dune Warfare Arrakis.
Yeah.
Anyways, Unsettled is awesome. I love it. I think it's absolutely amazing.
It's okay, Devin, because Alex cheats at cryo.
Oh.
Not really. You caught me and stopped me from cheating. Thank you very much.
Ain't nothing get past the professor.
Anyways, Unsetteled's fantastic. I think it's a great game. In fact, I'm currently in the process of doing a bunch of 2021 videos. Now that we're done with 2022, I'm like, now we've had a year of room to breathe. I'm doing like 5 different videos in 2021, like games I missed, games that were disappointing, games that have faded for me. And in my top games of 2021, I won't spoil it exactly, but I'll say Unsettled is very, very high towards the top of my 2021 titles. Yeah, and Meg, you still have to play it.
Yeah, I know.
It's good.
After
it's
this.
Good.
After
this.
In any case,
if only I had it.
Meg, what's your? We'll get it played. We'll get it. We got time. what is your game of the week, Meg?
Okay, guys. I don't think I've ever talked about this here. And I know this is going to be a shocker that this is a game that I want to talk about. But I want to talk about Gloomhaven. And honestly, my biggest reason being is that I am still high on the fact that I did 40 damage. And then in the same turn, I used a bottom attack and did like 12 damage and killed both things that I attacked.
That was one of the most insane moments I've seen in Gloomhaven. I've been playing Gloomhaven for 100 hours now.
I cannot calm down about it, but I am still like, I want to now fight everything possible. I feel so powerful like, spoilers-ish, guys. I'm playing as the 3 lightning bolts character, and that's all I'll really say, but I don't think there will ever be a better playable class in Gloomhaven, for me, personally.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. We were going through Gloomhaven. This is over on Camp Co-op, by the way. If you want to check it out, links down below on Camp Co-op. Meg and I currently play through a bunch of campaign games, primarily Gloomhaven. But she got to a point where there was a character there that I don't even remember. I didn't even that much damage. You need like 7 left to kill it, and you're like, boom, 40 damage, and we were like, wow.
No.
What?
No. He had like 14 or 19 health. It was an elite harrower.
He
was chunky. I think he had 19.
He was chunky.
You did 40 damage. It was insane. But then we're like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying because you need to kill the other person, and they had maybe they had 7 or 12 or something.
They had 8 health, and I was only attacking for 4, and I only had 2 health left, and they were retaliating. So I was like, I'll attack them, but they're gonna retaliate and kill me. It's fine. And then I got a +2 modifier, and then crit on top of it because I was blessed.
Yeah.
So I got both of my crits like within 1 turn of doing a top and bottom attack.
It was 2 in a row. It was the most we've seen some pretty cool plays in Gloomhaven, but there was 2 in a row that was the most insane. I then proceeded, by the way, to attack somebody else who had 3 health and got a negative card or whatever. So like the cursed or whatever. So like just in case the game's like, hey, we got the balance
evened
here.
out. It evened out.
Yeah, it was insane.
He's really lucky with dice.
Yeah, I'm seeing actually a comment from Nathan in the chat. Gloomhaven or Oathsworn. Again, we did a full video on this. You can check it out. But for myself, I'm still in Camp Gloomhaven. I'm still there. I still rate Gloomhaven higher than Oathsworn. I just am not confident that holds up as I play more Oathsworn. I'm not confident. So we'll see. Yeah.
I'm confident, at least for my heart. I love it so much.
I was like, I don't think Meg's ever going to change her mind following that attack.
Well, I think both of you are pretty settled. It would take a lot to shake either of you. Like, Devin's hardcore Camp Oathsworn.
I say that with, like, a ton of love for Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I still really want to play more Oathsworn. I think about it a lot.
Oh, wait, is that a spoiler? Never mind. Shh. I can't remember. I can't remember what's going on yet. I've been so busy editing them all that I don't really know who said what at which point. I've also been editing them out of order, so at one point I was watching one of the top 100 where Devin says, I hope this makes its way on Meg's list. And I'm like, you idiot, she already said it. And I was like, no, actually that was out of order. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
You're out of order.
Stay tuned if it's Oath or Oathsworn in my top 100.
Ooh, Oath or Oathsworn. Anyways, my game on the table. Are we done with Gloomhaven?
Yeah, I'm just really still excited.
Like, I'm never done with Gloomhaven.
You guys don't need to hear any more about it, but it is digital. If something has been stopping you from playing it, please go buy it on digital. It is so much smoother and easier to table, and that is where I crit like a boss.
Wait, Meg. Sorry, can you repeat that sentence that you just said? I think you just said it's way smoother and easier to table. Could you get that in writing, and could you send it over to Alex?
She acknowledges that she's never
has confirmation of you saying that, despite what I feel like was rather.
I was gonna get real sassy, but I don't want to make fun of anyone.
Devin, we have a full video of digital versus physical, and she's always acknowledged that digital is easier to table, but she has a list of reasons why she prefers physical.
And my thing is like, if you are not playing Gloomhaven, whatever will get you playing Gloomhaven, go do it. Go do it.
I'm thinking of a particular conversation that's upcoming at some point where Meg already had sass, and I just feel like that deflates that.
It's just it's all a gateway drug to her. It's all like whatever.
It's all a gateway drug.
If it's Jaws of the Lion, do that. Do Jaws of the Lion.
She's like, guys, however you can do Gloomhaven, just do Gloomhaven, okay? Just do Gloomhaven.
I'm on character. Just join someone else's campaign. You can do it.
For me, the reason I wanted to go last this week is because, and this is a problem we'll frequently have at times, which I specifically walked into today's video with 2 games, because I'm always cognizant of the fact that if I pick a game that any of the 3 of us have played together, what happens if one of you picked it?
Did you pick Unsettled and Gloomhaven?
No, I picked no. That would be bad.
Oh.
I only pick multiple games when they're games we've played together. So, and in the case of Gloomhaven, we just play it all the time. So who even knows? But the two games I walked in are Forbidden Stars and Catacombs. Although I'm going to be focusing on Forbidden Stars because I think that's what I want to talk about now. And the reason I brought both of those is because this past week we played both of those games together. And Forbidden Stars is one that I've played in the past. I've played half the game twice before. I've never finished a game. In fact, now I've played a partial game, but now I've played 2/3 of a game, or three. It's more than that. It was like 3/4.
We played 3/4 of a game, and honestly, there were a couple moments where it could have been finished in a round.
Meg's a turn away from winning, but we'll never know. So it's who knows? Who knows?
As far as I'm concerned, I won. I won when we decided to stop, and then I continued to shut you out. So I'm just gonna call it a win.
So we're in the middle of Forbidden Stars currently, sort of, never to be finished.
I've still got it set up.
Do you really?
Just God no.
Oh, I'd believe it. But Forbidden Stars is an epic game that's out of print, very expensive, hard to get your hands on, and it's a reprint of Star. What's the reprint of? It's Starcraft. Thank you. And it's an excellent game that I think is amazing. And unless Kevin claims his copy from me, I'm still going to hold on to my copy. Kevin, if you're watching, you can still claim the copy. But it's a game that I'm on the fence.
Yeah, which Kevin?
The Kevin. Kevin knows which Kevin.
Kevin knows which Kevin.
The problem with Forbidden Stars is that it's so good at so many things that the idea of letting it leave my collection feels bad. It feels like it's such an incredible experience, one that I really want to continue to dive into, to try the various factions, to enjoy it in different ways. There's so much positive aspects to Forbidden Stars that I want to engage with. The problem I have is that when it's somebody else's turn and they're fighting with somebody else, you're talking about like a 5 to 7 minute downtime often that you're just not involved or invested in the game. It has one of the more singular, less interesting aspects of other people's turns that I've seen from other games that I don't love. And so I both really appreciate so many elements of the gameplay. It has this action selection mechanism where you're basically placing down your orders down that both, first of all, they're hidden, so that has that element, but also you can place them down on top of other people so you resolve in reverse order. So if Devin wants to take an action in a certain sector, I can place an order token on top of his to frustrate him. I don't say that hypothetically, I say that actually and a lot, so that I can specifically get in the way of his game the entire time. It's very satisfying in what you do. The combat is very satisfying. The way you build your combat deck, the way you upgrade your faction, the choices you make, how you spread across the galaxy, how much you focus on building, how much you focus on growth. There are so many good decisions to be made in Forbidden Stars, and yet ultimately, I'm still in a 3-player game or a 4-player game. I would never play it at 4, by the way. Based on our plays, I would never play it at 4. I think 2 I would be totally willing to play, but I think it loses some of the dynamic of the table. But then at 3, you have the extra table dynamic, but you do so at the cost of a significant amount of downtime. I am so torn on Forbidden Stars, and I don't know what's going to happen to it. Unless Kevin asks it, in which case I know exactly what's happening for it.
Yeah, no, for me, I don't have any response to that criticism in terms of like negating it or deflecting it. Like you do, you have downtime whenever someone else is fighting, or if someone's taking a longer turn during the planning order, like there is downtime. To me, it's just like, I guess mentally, I think of it in the same respect as like, you know, an asynchronous game on BGA. Like the fact that I'm waiting to like re-engage with it doesn't bother me if I'm also at the table with other people, and like I don't mind the idea of the other thing about with 4 people, Alex, that I know that you don't like, but like I think is actually valid, is that there's someone else to talk to. If 2 people are engaged in a combat, the other 2 people at the table can talk and like, you know, commentate on it or discuss something else, or, you know, just be there at the table together, like even if they're not the ones there. So yeah, it's never bothered me.
I do respect that point. I've never played it before, but I respect that point. The idea that I can have table talk or, I don't know, rock, paper, scissors with somebody else.
Yeah, it like I've actually rarely played it at 3. I think I've played it at 3 with you guys, and then I taught Max and Kyle. And at 4 players, it's really just, you know, it's a bunch of hemming and hawing and like, you know, table talk between the 2 people that are involved and the 2 people that aren't involved. And then at 2-player, it's a little bit more of chess, but that's somewhat difficult because of the asymmetric factions and finding the right 2 of them to go up to each other. But I do think that like, I don't think Forbidden Stars has a defense against your criticism.
Cool. Well, that's it. I like the game. I just don't know what's going to happen to it. We'll find out.
Their defenses are down.
And with that, Meg, we're going to go ahead over to Crowdfunding Corner. We're talking about your particular segment today.
Oh, boys and girls. Alex, does it tell you how many days are left? 4 days to go. You guys, if you have not gotten in on this, there's probably a reason, and it's probably because it's so dang expensive. But if you have Wormwood,
yeah, and Dispelled.
The Dispelled Dice and Wormwood Kickstarter. If you have cash to drop, and if you play RPGs, or if you like dice or anything like that, and you haven't seen this yet, Alex, if you can scroll down to like the green dice that have the gold inlay in them. So what they did was they made stickers or something like that, some sort of like high quality sticker that is somehow injected into the dice and then molded over it. And it's just making the green ones are like the most beautiful. You went too far, Alex.
Is that like a general commentary, or you mean scrolling the page?
I'm watching. Right there. Below where it says, right there. See those? The iconic dice. They are
one of the best comments ever.
Go ahead.
They are so beautiful that, oh my gosh, I haven't backed to this yet. But also the dice box, that's not the right word. The dice tray.
Dice Vault.
Dice Vault. Thank you, Devin. I'm my brain is breaking this afternoon. They are so pretty. The way they designed it with the enamel inlays. It's gonna run you like $285 if you get a dice vault and dice with it, but treat someone for Christmas. Absolutely beautiful.
Treat yourself.
Yeah. I do have one of their dice vaults. I love it. It holds up. I've had it for, I want to say like 6 years now, and it still like hasn't warped, anything like that. It's still beautiful. So I can speak to like the long shaped dice vaults. Dispelled dice I have gotten to see at Gen Con. They're very beautiful as far as how they roll or how sustainable they are. Like if they hold up, I don't know, but gosh, they're beautiful. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, they're very cool. The problem with, I don't know, like, it's one of those times, whenever I see these dice campaigns, particularly Dispel, I'm always almost want to like RPGs more, because some of these like are very premium products that look very cool. But just like spending $70 on a bunch of dice that I don't even think I'll use is a hard thing to do. Yeah.
They're so pretty.
Yeah. No, it's definitely that one is.
Is that Miss Danny?
That is Miss Danny.
Is Miss Danny showing up?
What, Danny?
She's in a reindeer shirt.
Okay.
Well, while Danny shows up, I'm going to move over to the hot or not, or hot takes and cool downs over on the hotness. Devin, we're going to carry it for you. We gotcha. But, Meg, we're currently looking over at the hotness right now. We're looking over, this is usual, BGG has the top 50 games trending at any given point, and we typically are going to go over a bunch of them. Any ones we talked about in past weeks, we may, briefly talk about. We'll figure it all out. But we're going to start off with Heat, which is one that we are actually a whole lot more able to talk about this week compared to the last time we did this, because we've since played this. Meg, how's Heat?
Sorry, I literally started blowing my nose as you started talking.
Heat is a game that we all played together.
No, I finished. Heat is a racing game. It is a racing game where you are managing all of the heat in your engine. So you start with a certain amount of heat in your engine. You can use that to spend to do certain things. You also take on heat when you try to gear up too quickly. And yeah, it's all about how you use your heat to do different things. And something else that I think is very cool is that there is speed limits when you're going around corners. So you can only go so quickly around a corner that as high as your gear is how many cards you play. So you may even have to gear down to be able to go slow enough to go around the speed limits. And when you go over the speed limit, say the speed limit is 3 and you go speed 6, you have to pay 3 heat. And as soon as you can't pay any more heat, you spin out, which is very bad for you. And yeah, it's all like a balanced system of how many cards you can play, what gear you're in, and trying to race around a track. And there's also a slipstream mechanic where if you're behind someone, you can slip ahead of them because of like the draft of the wind or whatever, that you can jump ahead. That's Heat.
Yeah, and we finally played since the last time we actually talked about this, we all played Heat together, and I think we have varying takes on it to a degree, but like I really enjoyed what Heat is doing while still being a racing game, which has always been a game and a mechanic that I found has done well, but hasn't necessarily stuck around. It's one that kind of is there, but I like racing games, and I don't find myself pulling them off the table. We only played the basic game of Heat. There's a bunch of modules. I overall found it very enjoyable, while also thinking that I don't need to own it.
Mm.
Yep. Also, Meg, I'm seeing a comment in the chat from Nidamir, who has a good name for the segment called Hot Games and Cool Drinks.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I have my freshly opened polar seltzer here, so everyone hydrate.
That counts.
I have.
Now, Frosthaven and
Yeah.
Ships was an Odyssey. I think we talked about all these last time, and I don't think there's any major change in those. Whoops, I just went onto the wrong thing there. Let's go ahead and click to the next segment. But over here, we have Flamecraft, Terracotta Army, Endless Winter, Windless War. Did we talk about these? I think we talked about all these, right?
I don't remember, Alex.
We can jump around. Let's see. Flamecraft,
We've
Terracotta
talked
Army.
about all of these so much, even in other videos when we were together, that I can't remember what we talked about here.
I can't parse through where we've talked about what. I
Nice.
just can't.
Cascadia is still pretty high up.
So I just dove into Cascadia Solo for the first time. And I found that it's one that, for me, Cascadia is one that I love Cascadia in general. I think it's incredible. I hope they have expansion content for some time. But ultimately, it's the problem I have, not problem, I dove into it solo, and I found that, and Meg, you've played Calico solo, and you've played Cascadia. You haven't played it solo. Have you played
No.
Verdant solo?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, Cascadia Solo I enjoy, but it falls in between Verdant and Calico. The core puzzle, and I think it has like 15 games, same as like Verdant or whatnot, so more than Calico, but it might start off a little too simple. The core point puzzle in Cascadia, I find Calico to be the most rewarding by far in terms of how brutally difficult the solo puzzle is, which also makes it rewarding when you win. And in Cascadia, I only played the first scenario so far, but it was still pretty easy to win. Although I think, I'm curious what your opinion of it is when you dive into this one, if you dive into this one. I still very much enjoyed it, and more so than Verdant.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to do it since like we've kind of been doing this little like solo thing with quicker games and like that trio. That if you tried it, I guess I have to try it now too. But I will say, I felt that Verdant solo was too easy. It's a fine game. I don't know. Just being like brutally honest, I don't know how much I care about Verdant. I really love Calico. Cascadia I enjoy and I will play when other people want to play it. Verdant,
I would recommend jumping straight to like 5 or 6 on solo. It feels like it only ramps up at around, because Verdant has kind of just point scoring in the early games. It only jumps into having more intricate, specific goals around the scoring once you get to the higher levels. And like I'm still going to go through them one at a time, but I think it might only start being a challenge at somewhere around 5 or 6. And if it's not a challenge, it's not particularly rewarding when you win.
yeah.
Now, Wafers of the South Tigris. Devin, are you getting this one?
I have not got it, but I'm happy to play it and to get it at some point. I don't know anything about it, but I do like getting games from his series.
Well, that's why I
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Paladins of the West Kingdom left over, and I have Raiders of the North Sea left over, and I'll probably play one of the South Sea series and see which one's my favorite, and I'll try to keep that one. But I know a lot of people like it, but I don't know anything else beyond that.
Yeah, so I may try to get my hands on this one, because this is one that definitely does interest me the most from his whole series of games. Because Richard's in the chat saying Alex is going to hate another Shem Phillips and Sam McDonald game. Well, that's the problem. So first of all, I love Hadrian's Wall. The other games,
I love Hadrian's Wall.
I'm just saying, it's not purely like dislike, and I backed Legacy of You because that one was interesting enough. Speaking of solo games and solo puzzles, Legacy of You certainly compelled me. In the case of the general series of Shem Phillips games, I have always found them to be good and not great. They didn't really work for me. Richard's saying Hadrian's Wall isn't designed by either of them. That would make sense now. Anyways, in the case of Wafers of South Tigris, I certainly want to dive into it because it's dice placement, which is a mechanic I generally enjoy a lot. I do find myself skeptical as to where this one ends up. I want to try it, and I also am uncertain if it'll work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving to 16, we have the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, which has recently landed. And in fact, I've seen people getting some of the expansion stuff too. And in fact, it happens to be, speaking of games actually on our table, it happens to be physically on my table on the side, because I just filmed a video. of 2022 titles that I still want to dive into more, that I've played, but that I just, the ones I really want to dive into the most. And Elder Scrolls Skyrim is high up on the list. The Dragon's Tomb is pointing out that he is in that game. He's in the Elder Scrolls. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't know if he means like dragons or if he means like himself. I don't really know.
Feed the
There's
Kraken
dragons
is what he's
too.
talking about.
Oh, he's in
talking
Feed
about
the Kraken. Oh. Well, funny fact, Jeffrey, I did say that I'm probably getting rid of Feed the Kraken, so there's that. But yeah.
You're getting rid of Jeffrey?
What I specifically, well, in general, yes. What I specifically said about Feed the Kraken, interestingly enough, to drift from the BGG top 50, I said Feed the Kraken is a
Save my card.
Jeffrey, I'm actually going to be cutting your card up into 300 pieces and doing a giveaway with it. But anyways, I think Feed the Kraken is a delightful game, and I said practically speaking, it really thrives at higher player counts. 5 is the minimum, and I think it really needs 6 to do well. And I just like I want to play it, but I just don't see that kind of I don't see that kind of crowds at my game night these days. And when I do, what are the chances that this is the one game that's going to be pulled out?
Alex usually
What are
only
the
gets
chances?
Alex usually only gets like 3-player games done, and he has to pay 2 of those people to be with him. So I don't think financially he can afford 6.
Yeah, it's tough. But moving on, let's do one more sheet over here because we have Wingspan. Can any of you guess why Wingspan's currently in the hotness?
Is it
there an
because of the Oceania or whatever?
I'm assuming it's because of the Nestlings box.
Oh, the nesting box.
Yeah, they just released the whole pre-order for the Nestlings box, for the big box thingamajiggy, and a lot of people, I believe it's sold out already. And
Big Box Asia is what someone just said.
Isn't it called the Nestlings box? I could be wrong with that. Maybe it's part of the same thing. I don't know. But either way, you've both played Wingspan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounded enthusiastic from all of us.
I'm not crazy about it. I'm really not crazy about it.
Do you
It's
still
okay.
own it?
It's okay. No,
I've never owned it.
I've actually never owned it either. I've never had it ever as well.
Interesting. So I've owned it. I'm it's a rare situation in which I'm the person in the room who likes Wingspan the most. I think Wingspan is a very solid game that never captured my imagination, but I always thought was well done. And I've owned it a few times because it's always been easy to table and a good game, but I keep getting rid of it because people enjoy it and never ask for it. And so I've actually owned it 3 times and got rid of it. Well, the third time was just for the sake of reviewing it. The first 2 times were
you've owned it enough for each of us, so we didn't need to.
And I've gotten rid of it once for each of us. But yeah, the Nesting Box.
Appreciate you.
It's a very popular game. It for some reason hasn't worked for any of us. Yeah. And Spirit Island is likely in the top hotness because of the fact that they recently finished the backer kit campaign for Nature Incarnate, I want to say.
Sure.
Lots of
sure.
Nature Incarnate.
Hey,
Mutty, how's it going? Thank you for the super chat. Nature Incarnate is we have Gizmo's board games. My problem is my group often asks for Wingspan while I've got 200 other games I want to play. Gizmo's board gaase, I have a solution for that.
Get rid of Wingspan.
Get rid of Wingspan. I say this whenever we're having a game night. I often give my game group full reign over what gets played, and a big part of my logic is I already curated all the things I'm okay playing. So now you're just picking from the stuff I already approved. But yeah. Tones my bones. Did you guys see Mr. Beast was playing Dune Imperium on YouTube? I did not.
I didn't see that either.
That's very cool.
But that's awesome. He has good taste indeed. But anyways, Spirit Island. So the Nature Incarnate expansion was on backer kit. I don't really know anything about
what
it
adds. You want to know why he was playing Dune Imperium?
I mean, I'd love to know why he was playing Dune Imperium. Do you have an answer?
Because he didn't own Wingspan.
The Dragon's Tomb is saying, true story, I played Catan. That's funny. The Dragon's Tomb is saying, true story, I played Catan with Mr. Beast. And I'm assuming that he did not play Catan with Mr. Beast. But I don't know for sure.
I don't know. I feel like that's something that, like, because Jeffrey does
true story.
Because Jeffrey does do stuff with he does stuff with like YouTube algorithms and essentially analytics and making videos as like good as possible for YouTube strategy. So if he works in YouTube strategy, I could actually see a real world scenario in which he does something with Mr. Beast.
I'm with Srebme on this. Pixar, it didn't happen. Yeah. Meg, though, the number 19 pick over here is Gloomhaven, which is a game you've never talked about on this video series. Do you want to talk about it?
Oh my gosh, I feel like this is a game I should get into. It sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, Gloomhaven, and I'm assuming this is just being boosted by Frosthaven in general, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And Lost Winds of Arnak might be boosted first of all because it's an awesome game in general, but also because they do have at PAX Unplugged they had a bit of a tease for an expansion for Lost Winds of Arnak.
Co-op.
Yeah, they're gonna have a co-op expansion. I don't know if it's focused on co-op, or if it just adds co-op. I believe it adds. Like, what is
Focused
it?
on co-op, Alex. It is. They said it would be focused on co-op.
I think you're arguing with my I don't know too hard.
I'm telling you, I know.
And it also
Co-op
has how
plus
many?
2 liters.
Oh, there we go. I was gonna ask that one. How many?
I'm always
meters
on your
were-
side, Alex, when the chat isn't.
Ah.
But yeah, and that'll take us through the top 20. Ryan Gilmore, she's right as always. I'll take us through the top 20 over on BGG, which means it's time for another. Devin, do you have a crowdfunding corner this week?
I do have a crowdfunding corner.
What is it?
It is all of the games that aren't live yet that I'm ready for them to be live. I'm talking
if you
about
don't, I-
upcoming. No, it's the preview or featured page of Gamefound. I'm talking about Elder Scrolls: Betrayal of the Second Era, Andromeda's Edge, and Dante: The Invasion of Hell. Yeah, it's not games that are currently live, but it's on the featured section of Gamefound, and it's just campaigns that I'm waiting for because I actually had the Dispelled dice one like lined up, but I was like, I'm pretty certain Meg's gonna do this one. So I was trying to look for other stuff, and then
What
I
about
just kind of
Vampire the
realized.
Masquerade, Milan Uprising?
Ooh,
Do you know what that is?
What?
My precious meeple necklace.
That's
I
a
don't know that
Tebu.
one.
It's a Tebu game.
Ooh,
Alex.
that's exciting for me for sure.
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
realize
My
that was on
Precious
there.
Meeple necklace too.
Can you click on that one and see what the other jewelry is?
Oh my god, she's just like, oh, this is window shopping now. We're not doing crowdfunding corner anymore.
Okay, it's holiday season shopping. Find your loved
Okay.
one. Find the specific thing that you need.
Is it all just that same one necklace though?
It does seem to
Okay.
be all that one same necklace. It says a range of
All right.
jewelry, but the range seems to be very
That's
limited.
a big range. That's a
Yeah.
huge range right there.
Now there might be more in the page. No, so far they have a silver maple pendant. Oh, we got some more. We got chains for your silver maple pendant.
Okay, well.
Whoa, different
Alright.
chain lengths,
That's.
guys.
I mean, it's not a bad,
Different.
pretty focused.
Different chain lengths. Whoa.
But Devin, do you know the Tebu
Whoa.
system?
I do know the Tebaru system. Yeah, I know that you had it at one point and tried it out, and I know that it's something that probably would interest me, but I have not
With Vampire
I
the
haven't done it
Masquerade, you
myself.
might.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be totally down because Vampire the Masquerade is a world that I like a lot. I will say, who's doing that one? Because it looks like it's just. I mean, it's got the World of Darkness emblem on it, but is it like Tebaru is the one that's designing it as well?
World of Darkness, Tebu. It says it's exclusively on Tebu.
Cool.
So
That almost answers my question.
I mean, this does look cool. They made bad karmas. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm saying in general, if it's exclusively on Tebu, it seems like it's probably a collaboration with. Oh, it says Paradox down here. Paradox something. Is that just?
Well,
that's just-
Paradox Interactive are the people that own the World of Darkness license.
So my assumption, based on the fact that the Tebu's last game was the Bad Karmas, my assumption is that they're designing it themselves.
Gotcha. That's kind of what I was wondering, since I knew that they did have at least some design stuff under them in terms of titles. But yeah, for mine, it wasn't Vampire the Masquerade at all. It was just Andromeda's Edge, Dante: The Invasion of Hell, and Elder Scrolls from Chip Theory Games.
All
But
good choices.
you know what? Derail it, because I'm all in for Vampire the Masquerade.
Excellent. Well, it
love
does
that
look cool.
stuff.
I'm very curious to see how it plays. I thought the Tebu system had incredible promise, and the base game they had I thought was good, not necessarily great, but I thought it was good, and I'm very intrigued to see what else they do with it, particularly Sword and Sorcery. That's one that they're going to have upcoming that I'm very excited for, and can't wait to see what happens there. Very cool. Okay. And with that, I think we're going to go back to our regular, just us over here on the screen, talking about
Just
our
us.
Patreon segment, which is not called our Patreon segment. What's the name, Meg? What's the name?
Patreon presents our topic of the week.
Dun dun dun.
Brr, 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 brr.
Basically, over on
Dun, dun,
Patreon,
dun.
every single month, our patrons choose a bunch of topics that they want, and then I put together a poll where they get to vote on which topics are the most popular. So it's completely from Patreon. And this particular topic of the week is what's the upsides and downsides of being in the industry?
Which is a much longer way of saying pros and cons.
The pros and cons of being in the industry. The pros and cons of being in the industry. And now, obviously this is going to be answered from mostly from the sake of being a content creator, and you'll probably get different answers depending on if you're a designer or a publisher. I think there's a lot of different challenges and benefits and downsides to whichever role you have in the industry. But speaking as a content creator, there's an absolute ton that I can talk about in this side. But let's start with you, Meg, if you don't mind. What do you want to, if you're comfortable being thrown into the corner? But what are some of the upsides and downsides for you?
Oh goodness. I think I knew that this topic was coming and I've been thinking about it a lot, but I think this is something that's a lot easier for both of you to talk about. That I have a very hard time talking about like the downside or bad side of anything. I think that being in content creation, especially if you're doing well or if you have like a popular channel or something like that, I feel we've talked about this, about it being a mix of like hard work versus luck and just things aligning a certain way. And I feel very, very privileged to be where I'm at and very grateful that it's hard for me to talk about any downsides because I know so many people that make such great content that aren't where they want to be yet. And like that makes me very, very sensitive. So it's hard.
Do you want to talk about some of the upsides then?
Yeah, I think some of the upsides, I want to say one of my favorite upsides is that as someone who consumed content before I was making content, I've gotten to meet people that I looked up to. And the thing that's mind-blowing is that sometimes when I meet them, they know me and are already appreciating things that I've done. So that kind of extremely surreal moment, even talking to publishers that I've been playing their games for 10 years and they're like, we want to be working with you. It really is like surreal and mind-blowing and a real privilege. I think it's amazing to be able to make connections with people, and especially in the board game industry, I feel. I mean, I've never been in like other industries, but almost everyone that I've met has been so amazing and kind and cool and even better than I expected that they would be. I feel so grateful just to be in the space.
Yeah, and I can definitely tackle both some of the upsides and some of the downsides, and I'd say that acknowledging everything you said. The downsides I'm going to talk about, and I will talk about a bunch over here, are said with the absolute most gratitude possible for the position I'm in. 100%. I was just talking to Devin this past week. Devin, Meg, and I were all in Devin's area of town, and I was talking to Devin.
I think Meg was at the house, but you and I were driving.
And I was talking about the fact that it's just insane to me that if you go back a year, I had a 9-to-5 job where I got up, I went to work, I came home. I was still doing videos, but like I had a 9-to-5 job versus now my job is mostly putting myself through the pressures of jumping from one convention to the next trip to the next this as I try to make everything work. And there's a lot of pressure attached to the stuff I'm doing and a lot of craziness and a lot of trying to like balance everything. But like just the sheer gratitude for the fact that my job and the things I do every single day are in board games, both content creation and the gamefound side. Everything I do these days is focused on spending time in the hobby that I love, and every complaint I have is said with complete gratitude for the position I'm in. They're downsides, they're not complaints, I guess. But the starting one I'm going to say is that, and this is something that I know that we've all experienced in different ways, but there is a much different focus on the hobby that you walked into loving. You start off being able to just play the games you want and do the things you want, and just everything's great. But then as you develop an audience and as you go and as you're in content creation, there is a pressure to cover things for different reasons than the sheer desire to play a game. It's just the way the algorithm works, the way the audience works. You do have to play the newest stuff. You do have to shift from title to title. You do have to be constantly on top of things. You have that review copy you told the publisher you're going to have done, and so you're committing yourself and pushing yourself through a game that you're only okay with because you need to cover the review copy you got sent. And there's a lot of pressure to play games and spend time on elements and aspects of the hobby that are fine, and again, much better than a regular job. There's no complaints here, but it can to some extent take a small sense of magic off the edge of the hobby. Previously, I'm playing the games I want with no other factors other than the fact that I want to play the game I want. Whether it's a new game, an old game, it's purely driven by my desire to play that game. And now there are external factors that dictate what I play, when I play it, how I play it, and there's a pressure. Someone in the chat mentioned the idea of, that sometimes we get a lot of focus on, our reviews are biased, or they're not comprehensive, or they're negative, and sometimes there's a pressure. If I don't like a game, I actually have to play it more. I have to reread the rulebook of games I don't like, because if I'm going to criticize it, I want to be darn sure that I don't criticize it while also getting a critical rule wrong. There's an extra element of pressure on how you engage with all the games you're playing that isn't fun, and it does take away from some of the magic of the hobby. And my approach to that is always, and this is where we go to the upsides, which is a lot of what Meg said, my approach to that has always been acknowledging that the downside will be there, but I'm not going to let this kill my hobby. And the way I'm not going to let it kill my hobby is by focusing on the pros I get out of the hobby, because there are so many elements that are so cool. To me, it is still not stopped being cool that I have like a person at Command that I can talk to, that they'll be like, oh yeah, we watched your video. Like, I'll have someone from Command messaging me being like, oh yeah, we watched the video, good video. And that I'm interacting with them, and they're sending me games. And like, you know, Awaken Realms, that I'm working for the gamefound, which is like, you know, from Awaken Realms, that I am interacting with publishers whose games, like I remember Burnt Island Games, one of the first companies I worked with directly as a content creator, is one that I had backed Endeavor. I owned Endeavor. I owned their game, and this company was like, hey, can you cover Into Deep? And it was like, it's such a riveting experience to have these companies and people and designers in an industry that you care about, and they care who you are and they want to talk to you. The idea that at this convention we almost, I say almost because it's very unfortunate it didn't happen, but that we were like talking with Henry Audubon, the designer of Parks, a game I love, and the fact that we almost sat down to play a game with him because we planned it multiple times and it kept failing, unfortunately, because of planning issues. It's mostly my fault. People don't take me seriously when I say I'm bringing the expansion cards and only the expansion cards. But the fact that there's designers of games that I love, like I've played a game with Eric Lang. I've sat down and played Marvel United with Eric Lang. That to me, those kinds of encounters and interactions more than make up for the fact that some of the games I play come with a degree of pressure around how I engage with them. And so the downsides are that I'm forcefully interacting with my hobby at times in a way that can take away some of the magic. And one of the biggest upsides for me is that I get to interact with my hobby in a whole different way that drastically adds to the magic.
Agreed.
Good. Okay. All right. I made a list of pros and cons. I think I have like 7 or so on each. And yeah, I mean, to clarify, I do think that I want to say the same thing that Alex said in terms of like, these are just like the reality of what we do. These are just because I'm making a pro and con list does not mean that they're equal in my mind or that I dwell on the negative aspect of what we do with any amount of weight on a day-to-day basis. And then also just in terms of perspective, because I do think that this is something that other people don't necessarily focus on consciously, is the idea that we have jobs where the people who watch us love our job as a hobby and have only the hobby like unfettered joy, while watching people who do have like job responsibilities attached to that. And so like the relationship between, I think sometimes how viewers have it and then sometimes how on the content creator side, there is a dissonance there between just the simple like objective reality of like what each side deals with. And so, but again, that is said with the caveat that because I am saying cons, it doesn't necessarily mean that I weigh these or value these the same. So I'll just go on cons first just to get kind of like the meh out of the way, and then I'll move on to the pros at the end of this. So the con for me that immediately came to mind first is the commitment to review board games, because this is where you turn something from the hobby aspect to it is a responsibility of yours, it is an occupational necessity for you to review games. And then also alongside that is something that I don't think a lot of people think of, at least when I didn't think of it whenever I was outside of the hobby from a professional standpoint. Like when I used to teach school, I would go to school and I would teach, and yeah, I might do some grading or I might do some lesson planning, but for the most part, the hours that I spent teaching were the hours that I did at work, or especially when I was in the professional writing at a hospital. My hours were the hours that I was there, and that was it. The forward-facing content that you guys see from us as content creators, we have to do work to prep for the work that we then do. So it's like the hour investment is actually much more pervasive and behind the scenes than I think we necessarily conceptualize on a day-to-day basis. Like if Alex wants to give a review on a game, cool. He needs to spend 12 hours playing that game 5 times. to where he can review it. And like you said, if you want to give any critiques at it, that may necessitate even more of an investment. So like 12 hours to do 30 minutes or 1 hour, like that is a very like big investment time that isn't necessarily focused on a lot. So there is a commitment to review that then leads into my second con, which is not enough time for the games that you love. And what I mean by that is all of the titles that I have here that I've had for years that I don't get to the table because I feel a need or a compulsion to work on the stuff that, like Alex said, Cult of the New, the things that you do need to provide coverage for, or that people are going to actually watch. People don't care if Meg and I play Dead of Winter because Dead of Winter is no longer in like the cultural conversation of the games at the time. But Meg and I both really like that game, and I haven't got to play that game for a long time. And so you don't have enough time for the games that you love because you're spending a lot of time focusing on what you need to for work. And so I definitely think that is something that you just have to focus on and be aware of. And then also, it does turn your hobby into work. And there is elements of that where, like, if you want to be in something for just kind of the innocent joy of what you're doing, then you do need to realize that it's the same thing like if you have any level of like creative or artistic work. Like if you want to, if you're on Etsy and you are like, I like woodworking, and then you start a shop on Etsy and then someone's like, oh, I'm going to build a chair for myself. And then you're like, oh, wait, I have to build 5 chairs in the next 2 months. Like that does create a certain type of situational pressure on what you're doing that certainly shifts the viewpoint that you might have.
And I don't want to complain about it necessarily, but just something that adds to that as well in the time that we need to spend. Usually, more often than not, especially with Alex, we're covering games that aren't publicized yet. So it's Kickstarters that you usually are working with not final rules, not proofread rules that aren't always set up great, and some that are often translated.
Or text-based with not a single image.
Yeah, so you're going through rules, and they may even change by the time, you might read them while the copy is on its way, and then by the time it gets here, you have a new PDF, and you're trying to figure out what rules even changed in between. And I know I used to use Rodney all the time, and something like Watch It Played and How to Play videos, and for a lot of this newer games, like, that just doesn't exist. It's not there yet.
Yeah. No, for sure. Another one for me is, and this is, you could call it imposter syndrome. You could call it just finding a creative voice, whether you're a writer, whether you do video content. But another one for me is the process of finding a balance of what you bring to content creation versus what already exists in the space. Because, at the end of the day, I'm not regimented like Alex. I'm not someone who can very effectively follow an outline and bring like a bunch of nuanced points back to back to back in a way that is really consistent and structurally appropriate for it. So it's like, I may not be the right person to do board game reviews in the way that other people are, or I may not be the kind of person to do a how to play like Rodney because he's an effortlessly sexy Canadian man, like I can't do that.
Fun fact, I'm just shout out, make sure to subscribe to Play the Game HQ, where eventually when they have their Heat gameplay go up, that's just an hour of all 3 of us just hitting on Rodney Smith.
It's just all of us gushing over Rodney. That's really all it is.
Hot Rod.
Hot Rod. And so, trying to divine what the best spot is for you in terms of what you create is a challenge. Maybe con is not the right word for it, but it's just a challenge in terms of figuring out what it is. I would say that if you're wanting to enter the space and sometimes even remain in the space, it can be difficult, it can be expensive, it can be time consuming. You've got to learn new skill sets. You've got to learn, video, editing, filming, at least enough techniques to get like audio and visual stuff in there to where, you want to get to the point where you don't feel self-conscious enough about what the content you're producing to where you're incentivized to keep producing it. And depending on your financial state, depending on your time, whether you're just doing this, outside of friends, outside of family, outside of your work, it can be a hurdle to get in. Another one that I'm sure Meg doesn't want to, and it definitely has a nuanced and different view of that I put up, was just dealing with negative interactions online. And this is something that and I don't want her to have to, talk about this if she doesn't want to, but like this is definitely something that, it's something that our community is really, really good at. Srebme is one of the fantastic members of Camp Co-op, and she actually mentioned this in our Discord, which I think is something that is not just it's a permanent thing that we need to dwell on as content creators. Is if you get 100 comments and one of them is really negative and 99 of them are anywhere between passive to really positive, our minds are triggered to focus on that 1%. And that's difficult to deal with. Some people have thinner skin or thicker skin, and depending on what type of, it could be a comment that is on something that you really don't care about, and so it kind of bounces off and deflects and it doesn't bother you, or it could be that one thing that you're already self-conscious of.
Yep.
And it really just like it finds the chink in your armor, and it just digs in and it gets past, and it hurts and it sucks. And trying to from the viewer side or from the commenter side, it's very frequently like you can just kind of throw things and no one's keeping track of that. But like if we don't mediate our emotions and control like how we respond to stuff, like those reactions and that image of us can exist or in perpetuity online, whether it's screenshotted or anything. So it's like there is a major difficulty with just dealing with what you do online, and figuring out how to navigate what can be an emotionally or a mentally exhausting process, because you're always, even when you're excited about people's comments, you're always waiting for the negative ones because they're inevitable. And so it does definitely, I know I'm kind of monologuing. I've got a lot of stuff left on my other list, but like if you guys want to jump in there at all.
I'll jump in on that specifically because that is a big one. That absolutely is a big one. And speaking of, Rodney Smith once put out a video that he's talking about this. He said, when you focus on that one person who says something negative, what effectively you're doing is, without intending to, you are insulting the rest of your audience who told you how good you are, who told you how much they like you, who told you how much they love the content, and you're ignoring everything they said. It's not important, but you're fixating on that one thing that's negative. And it is, to a certain degree, a bit insulting without being intended to. And while I completely agree with that, it's still hard not to. It is still, and the key word you said, Devin, is inevitable. When you have enough of a audience, and enough does not have to mean any large number. It could mean if you have 500 people watching you, there's already people on the internet who don't like you. They hate the way you speak. They hate the way you clarify. That you're a shill. You're a problem. Everything you say is a waste of time. You're not adding value to the conversation. There's always going to be a small percentage, and the larger you grow, the more people like you, but the more that percentage is. There's a huge creator who had like 5 million subscribers who, like a few months ago, he quit YouTube. He came back after like 6 months, but he quit YouTube. And there were a lot of people in the comments who were like, why you quit? Like, because he put out a video saying he just couldn't take it anymore. Every time he put up a video, he knew he was going to get people who hated him, and he just couldn't, it just wasn't worth it to him. And he had so many people in the comments who were like, but there's so many of us that love you. Like, why don't you focus on that? Like, we all like you. Like, why are you doing this? And I, as a creator, I completely understand why if you have 5 million subscribers, that might mean that every video there's 50,000 people who are posting negative things about you. Post 50,000 people who have a critical take on who you are and how you're doing things, and that just builds and builds, and it requires the thickest skin to learn how to not look, to pretend it doesn't exist, to not engage. It is brutal how just having something on the internet is... Like, there are things on the internet that you can find if you want to search for negative stuff about any of us or any content creator, like, because it's so easy to abstract, and like it's so easy for me to think like, oh yeah, shut up and sit down. There's a bunch of people who don't like their content, but that they're not me. Then now suddenly, so like a few people who are like on the internet saying like, oh, I don't like shut up and sit down. Like, I'm not mentally investing in that and that. I understand it's bad and that's cool, like, but it's bad. But then suddenly it's like, when it's you on the internet and there's 5 people on the internet, and like there's that meme. You ever seen that meme? The one who's like, the guy's like, honey, come to bed. He's like, I can't. It's like, why not? Someone is wrong on the internet. And they're typing like to the, and like I identify with that so much, the idea of the need to convince everyone. And like, I don't care if you don't like me, but why are you posting on internet forums how much you hate me? And you have to learn to tune it out. The end result is you have to understand that when you have enough people, then there's going to be a subset that don't like you, and there's going to be a subset of that don't have the diplomatic skills to understand that the things they're saying can be hurtful. I have had people comment on my videos with direct critiques, and then when I politely respond to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you'd read it." And I'm like, You're on my video. Like, who did you think was reading it? Like, it's not like you went to some, like, Reddit sub-thread somewhere. Like, you're on my video posting a negative content, like, oh my gosh, like, can't believe you have this take. And, like, they'll act surprised when I respond, as if, like, I'm not a person who's engaging. And we have to remember, but, like, and again, it's to be very clear, fully still appreciate everything I do in the space, and I fully appreciate the tremendous degree of, both on Board Game Co., on Camp Co-op, I think we have a tremendous audience here that is one of the best audiences ever. Doesn't mean everyone's perfect, but it means that I know that I can rely on a tremendous amount of support no matter what it is I do in any number of ways. Recently, I put out a GameFound update video. Like, I have the separate job with GameFound, I put out an update video, and I mentally prepared for the backlash of, like, 300 people that would be like, why are you posting GameFound updates? I'm only here for the board games. And I didn't get that. I think I got, like, no pushback at all, and I was so tremendously grateful for my audience. And it's, like, all supportive. It's like, oh, I like this, I like knowing what that is helpful. And I'm sure there were people who didn't care. I'm sure there are people who thought that's not why I'm here. And those people chose not to comment, which I respect and appreciate. Meaning, it's up to us to a degree to reinforce that thick skin, to decide that, yes, we are on the internets, and therefore we have to try to become as good as possible at learning how to navigate that. But I also tremendously appreciate every person who makes that easier on me. There was one person one time who posted, I remember there was like a whole, this is actually about Quacklope, I remember, but they're basically having a whole like trashing fight about Quacklope online, and then Jesse jumped in, and the guy posted, hey, you're on the internet. It's like, if you're on the internet, it's your problem to have to deal with this stuff. And I responded, I said, you're right. You are correct. That is 100% my problem to have to learn how to handle it. You're still a tool for being the person who's making me handle it. You're still wrong, even though I signed up for this when I said I'm going to be a internet personality. The people who aren't tools make that push and that conflict easier every single day.
And so I think that probably the final thing that I just wanted to say there is what's difficult for me, and this is just, my approach just in terms of life, is that I generally don't find a lot of things that faze me, and I purposely choose to cull certain personalities or like mentalities of people around me just out of my life if I find that they are like draining or wholly negative. But like, it takes energy to be mean. Like, it takes effort, like whether you're doing it in real life or whether you're doing it online. Like, Alex, you're talking about the fact of like, you chose to comment on my video. It's not only that you chose to comment on my video, it's that you chose to put forth the mental energy and effort to be a scathing or like, deconstructing, critical, upset voice. Like, that takes emotional and mental energy. And like, for me, I'm just like, if I don't like something, cool, I'm just not going to engage with it. The idea of not liking something and choosing to engage in it to make sure someone was aware that I don't like it is like a additional level of effort that baffles me. And I'm saying this from, and I know that, out of the three of us, the one who really could probably speak more on this is Meg. And I'm not going to push her to, but I'm just saying, like, Alex and I feel this way, and we're white dudes. Like,
yeah.
We are literally the safest segment in terms of like having problems that you have to deal with online. And it's annoying even for us. So I do think that is something to be like really, really mindful of. That is something that I'm aware of. And I do think that Strebmy mentioned it earlier. The fact that like you can find people to give support and understanding to where you aren't alone in it is really strong, and does cater into some of the things I'll say when I'm talking about the positive stuff. But the only other con that I mentioned is just the idea that you have to juggle it around other responsibilities or other hobbies or interests. So like if this is not the only thing that you're doing for work, you have to make sure you have time for that. If you have like, a family, or if you have kids or something, or if you have other hobbies. Alex is uniquely weird in that the only thing he has ever done in his life is board games. Like, he came out of the womb with a copy of Catan. It was weird. It caused like an extra 4 hours of labor in the delivery ward, but it was just like he came out with that copy of Catan in his hand.
And I played it with Mr. Beast.
And you played it with Mr. Beast. And so, like, I enjoy, exercise. I enjoy, I think all of us enjoy reading and books and movies and stuff to different, like, levels that it invades our daily life.
Book ever.
But, that's the other thing that is just, like, juggling around other stuff that you want to do in your life. But I want to shift it now to the positive aspect of this, which is the pros of being a content creator, because I kind of wanted to end on what I thought was more. I was hoping that Alex's uniquely weird was the end of that sentence. That's
Devin,
amazing.
Before you do the positive stuff, because I don't mind weighing in on the comment thing. I think I won't get super deep into it, because something that I've found is the more... I don't know if I'm qualified to have a good way to talk about what it's like being a woman in the board game industry. I think that it's definitely something where there's a lot to be said, and I want
just to
be
clarify,
able to talk about it better.
That's bullshit. Like, you are qualified. So
well, but I want to be as helpful as possible, and I think I'm at the point where I know how things feel and I know what I've experienced, but how to actually help, I'm not sure. I think the biggest help is that if you see someone commenting something that's rude or upsetting, to call it out if you guys do see that. But I think what's very tricky is I constantly get feedback based on what I look like. Like, the three of us could do this weekly show every single week, and one of you can be exhausted, one of you can have messy hair, one of you can come in late, and depending on what you look like versus what I look like, the comments will be, Meg looks really tired, is she taking care of herself? Or something like that. And that kind of stuff I get often. But I know I've talked with you guys about this. It's very tricky that when it's hate, it's very clear. When you're a woman and they just don't want you being a woman in gaming, that's very clear, and I can block them right away. A thing that's very tricky are the people that want to date me, or the people that want some sort of response in that sense. That very often I'll get things like, wow, your video looks really great, and I'll be like, thank you, and then they'll start trying to engage with something like that, and I don't really know how to respond in a way that's grateful without engaging people that I don't understand that I shouldn't be engaging. It can be very, very tricky, and I know you guys have seen it. And something that gets a bit frustrating that you guys have both seen more and more now that I'm on Board Game Co. more is that people like want me to be dating everybody. And it's like, I don't understand why it just so happens to be that I'm the woman on the channel, so now dating happens. Like, who cares about that whatsoever? I would rather crush you guys in any board game possible, and that's my goal. So
but like, what is your diet plan that you've been using?
But like,
oh my gosh,
I was gonna get sassy, but see, even like welcoming the jokes is really it's really tricky and really tough. It's a weird balance. No, you're totally. I don't even know where else I was gonna say with that, because I think this is where I don't want to super get into the conversation of like things that have been said to me and things like that, but it's very much clear sometimes that I am attacked just because I'm a woman. Where sometimes you guys have shown me comments where it's like they're attacking how you approached something or how you described something, or that you're covering a particular game, or they think it might be biased or this or that. Please send it to me if you guys ever get one that's criticizing what you look like, because I would love to just see how funny that is if someone's like, I know you've gotten some.
It's rare. It is rare. Like, to the point, like when I say I've gotten them, I mean that across putting out a daily video every single day, more than that, 10 videos a week every single day for 3 years, I think I can think of like 4 times. Yeah.
And I think growing in the public eye, to get super personal, when I very first started in like 2020, I was going through weight issues, and I was going through like depression, eating issues that I was really struggling, and people would comment on what I looked like and be like, oh, she's anorexic, oh, she's underweight, oh, look at her. And it's like, when I'm trying to battle that anyway on my own and I'm getting those kind of comments, like that is really, really hard to live through.
Yeah.
Devin, F you and your diet plan question. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, it's a lot. Not to get too heavy. I wasn't really intending to get
Yeah.
down this rabbit hole, but I completely agree with Devin on this. Like, it definitely is. And again, all of this still said with the acknowledgement that we choose to be here, and
I
this,
haven't
like,
even talked about the pros yet. I'm going to be positive.
I'm gonna counter this with the pros exactly. So Srebby just posted sending many hugs your way, Meg. Now Srebby
I love you, Thurmy.
is someone from our Camp Co-op community. Camp Co-op is a channel Meg and I have where we do campaign games. Devin occasionally jumps on and manages to win anyway. But basically, we have a Camp Co-op community where we do a lot of streaming every single week, and it's an incredibly close community, and we have a thing called the break counter, which is sometimes the community is so sweet to Meg or myself that one of us just like goes like, oh my god, I can't take it. I just can't take it.
They try to make me cry like every day.
It's a goal. It's a goal to make us all cry from just love. And one of the reasons I love our community so much, one of these things, like, it's not a very big community, but it's like we play games and we have fun, and I love our community very deeply because it almost is the exact, not to say you're all amazing too, but like this currently is a very small, closer knit community that is so friendly and so inviting that it just feels like hanging out with friends, and it's almost the exact opposite thing you need. If you hop onto the internets and you get a few negative comments one day, hopping onto our Camp Co-op stream and just having everyone just be so friendly, so warm, and so intentionally trying to say kind things to make us break. Also, they say a lot of mean things to me, but I don't know why that is. But it is so warm and inviting and friendly that it really feels like the counter to the stuff out there that can be negative. It's like, feels like such a ridiculously safe space that is, and like the concept of safe space, like, whatever. I'm not gonna heavily get into it, but it just feels very nice to have a bunch of people who like you for who you are, that you feel more friends with, and not just viewer, presenter and viewer and whatnot, but that you feel actually friends with. It's very nice. It's a very interesting thing to be on the internet. Once upon a time, I used to say, before anything happened here, I used to say that I wanted to be like Jeff Bezos. And before all of you lose it, I said that before anyone knew who Jeff Bezos was. I said that when he was the person who you read about in business magazines, but he was not a household name, nobody knew who he was, but he owned Amazon and just was this random person. And the example I gave is because the reason I said that is I wanted to be rich, but I wanted to not be famous. I wanted no one to know who I am. That was my goal. Now, because I want money, I want quality and comfort of life, absolutely. But fame is not my goal. It happens to be that I love board games enough that I accidentally ended up in a place where now I am board game famous, with air quotes and all. And that has, again, it resulted in a bunch of incredible opportunities that are very, very cool, and it's resulted in a lot of friends. I am only friends with Devin and Meg, two of my closest friends. I'm only friends with them because of this opportunity. So I have no regrets.
Of Gloomhaven.
And Gloomhaven and all these things. But there are downsides to all of this. Oh, Kevin, dear Lord. Oh, dear Lord. Devin, I bought 3 ponchos, so nice try.
You did?
Yeah.
You bought 3 of them?
Yep.
Was it after the stream?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I can't wait to see you coming down to Camp Co-op with your glass of wine and your poncho.
I wasn't going to buy 3. I was going to get 1, but then Rena's like, I want this blanket, and they had to buy 3, get 1 thing free.
My mouse just died.
So at that point, I just got 3 ponchos and a blanket. Yeah. Anyways, that's the heavy stuff. Devin, go ahead. Hit us with the other things. By the way, 3 ponchos means all 3 of us can wear a poncho at the same time, just for the record.
Oh, I'm down for that. Yeah, I think, okay, there you go. I think it was just I ran out of battery finally. Oh, okay, I have a mouse again. All right, talking about the pros. On the
We are the pros.
Yeah, oh, ooh. So on the cons, I said the commitment to review board games, and on the pros, I wanted to say the opportunity to review board games. And I think that is such a special thing. The idea, I had some friends over where, we were playing Unsettled, and we're sitting there, and they were like, "This writing is so clever." And I said, yeah, Tom and Mark are just really fantastic people, and they're so brilliant. I was like, they're so brilliant. And Amber looks at me and she goes, "Do you know the designers?" And I was like, yes. I was like, yeah, I know the designers. Tom Mattson, Mark Nylandberg, they're amazing people. They're really wonderful people. I love Orange Nebula. They're one of my favorite publishers. And I think just that.
And who did you spend 2.5 hours with this morning?
I spent 2.5 hours with Paul Grogan. So me and Paul Grogan, who does Gaming Rules, who worked on the rule books for stuff like Burn Cycle and Oathsworn and ISS Vanguard and Dead Reckoning and Frostpunk. You know, I spent 2.5 hours talking about board games with him. And the access that this job has given me to people that I care about and appreciate and professionally admire. You know what Meg said on her pros about the types of people that, you know, like are kind of like your heroes or people that you look up to, and then you get to spend time with them. And not only do you get to spend time with them, but they they in return view you as peers, which is just like mind-boggling.
Yeah.
The fact that I can have a conversation with someone and that they think that I'm even, you know, worthy enough to be on their level in terms of like where we're at, you know, friendship-wise or professionally, is such a cool experience. So definitely like the opportunity to do that is awesome. And then that leads into what I'm kind of already talking about, just collaborating with other content creators. So Alex said that one of the first publishers that he got to work with was Burnt Island Games because he backed in Endeavor and they got to cover Into Deep. Into Deep is how I met Alex. I got to, you know, I didn't even know
I was the downsides of the industry yet.
You know, it's just like I got to meet Alex there. We did a live play of Into Deep where I got to play with him, and then Nicole Hoy, I think was her name, if I'm remembering now. And then, you know, we played with Josh Capel, who was, you know, the designer of the game and one of the core people at Burnt Island Games. And the opportunity to collaborate with other content creators, to get to do what I get to do with you guys, where, you know, 1 month, 1 month I'm coming up to see you guys. 1 month you guys are coming down here. We meet up at conventions. I get to see you guys. I get to know all of these people who are both content creators or publishers just within the industry, because it's such a, like, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but like board games is still a relatively small industry, and I feel like a lot of them are family. Like Amber and I've moved around a lot growing up, and so kind of an ethos of my family has been that like the friends that you make where you are, they are your family. And so like we, you know, when you guys came over just recently, like we, you know, something that me and Amber did when we were in Texas was the other residents in medical, you know, residency with us, they would come over, and every week we would do a Sunday family dinner. And like we had like our first little family dinner with you two whenever we were there. And like that felt really special. And to be able to do that with people as a cause or as a result of the job that I have is really fun. For sure. So collaborating with other people, building a community. So kind of going back to something that you guys have already been talking about here with Camp Co-op, with your Board Game Co channel, with my channel, Devin Talks Tabletop, and other communities that I maybe don't run or am the face of, but am a part of just on Discord or something like that. The communities are really, I think at the end of the day, what brings me back to this. You know, like when you have a job or something and like you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, I don't want to go do my job right now, and like there's like if you have a good job or if you have a good experience and you're content with what you do, sometimes more than the impulse to do something for yourself, you want to do something for other people. And the community that we've created, that Alex has cultivated on his channel, that Meg has on hers, that I have on mine, that you two have on Camp Co-op, which I have, you know, slowly invaded, you know, week by week in terms of my interactions, at least. Like those communities are so wonderful, and I'm thankful for them. And to me, they're half of the reason for doing what I do. Like when I get to have people come up and be incredibly kind and incredibly excited and, you know, engaging with me. And, you know, we talked about, the three of us talked about this with Rodney and Adam Smith at PAX Unplugged. The idea where there's two sides of it. With its other content creators, it's like you both are aware of each other and you have like impressions and ideas of each other. And then once you meet, it like the tendrils all connect and like the roots are established. And you're like, oh, we kind of have a relationship already. It's just been digital, but now it's in person. And the beautiful thing on the community side is that like the people have a relationship or an understanding of who we are before we ever even meet them sometimes. And getting to see that flourish in person is really cool. Like one of the highlights of PAX Unplugged for me was our camp co-op night. And that was just like an absolutely wonderful experience of getting to meet with people. So for sure, I definitely enjoy building a community. Networking at conventions kind of applies to everything I've already been talking about. There are two different types of ways to network, or two different ways that people network. And the one that I avoid the most, that is the easiest, like there are people at conventions and you can just feel the sleaze like coming off of their clothes. And it's very much like they're there, and the reason why they're there is to advance their own agenda, and like the relationship is a means to an end. And you're definitely like, you can see the salesmanship of it, and it's like, hey, nice to meet you. How could we help each other? And that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like where you just get to spend time and build relationships and talk to people. And that networking side of conventions is my favorite thing. I love like the little evening sessions where you get together with a small group of people, and maybe you're playing a game, maybe you're drinking at a bar, maybe you're sharing a meal, and you just get to engage in that. And I love that to death. Probably the lamest one for sure is satisfying a consumerist impulse. Like it is, and this is really why I was like, I'm not going to buy games for a year, because we get games, which feels really fun. I have never, ever, ever tired of seeing a cardboard box on my doorstep and going
100%. 100%. I've said this.
And then I go get the box and I open it up and I'm like, what were you saying?
Guys, because of where I live somewhere very remote, and my post office is inside of a convenience store. So I don't have my local post deliver any of my packages, especially like also for safety, I don't give out my address. So I have to pick mine up at the P.O. box. Me trying to pick up packages at the P.O. box and then go through 2 different glass doors that I have to open carrying my packages is like pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
I'm just envisioning you right now with a full like CMON Marvel United box, like
Picking up Frosthaven, I had 2 other packages with it, and I had to be like, I'm leaving those here, I'll be right back, because I can't carry everything at once. I can't do it.
Yeah, no, the idea of having having a package on your doorstep, and the downside of it is many of these packages represent commitments. Like, okay, I have to cover this game now, but there is something incredibly exciting to just have a box. It is very enjoyable. It is an upside, and there are constant boxes. I played 365 new games last year. I played a full game every single day. I'm only like, the year's not over, and I'm like, I think I'm a little bit ahead. So I'm like 380 games or something like that for 365 years. What?
Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay. Do you have alpacas?
No,
Anyways.
I have something that I got at my P.O. box.
Okay, but yeah, so I played a lot of new games last year, and that means each of those was a box, or at some point or another. Some of them were like 3 games in a box, but like it adds up very quickly, and it's very enjoyable. It does represent commitment, but there's something nice. Like our kids, whenever there's a box inside, our kids know the UPS, the FedEx, they know the things. They're like, my 3-year-old likes to go to the front steps to pick up a box and bring it to me. That's his thing. He's like, Abba, you have a box. Like, he'll tell me when the post office came. And then sometimes I'll look at it and see that's for my sister, and I'm bringing a box to Toronto, and then I resent her. But there was one day UPS drove up, and this guy lifted 4 giant boxes, and I was like, holy hell, what Come On Kickstarters came my way today? And it was a bunch of containers from the Container Store. It was possibly the most disappointed I've ever been. Whatever. We'll talk
that's where you and I diverge, because if I got free packages from the Container Store, oh my gosh, the amount of sexual arousal that would happen with the organization. Oh man, I would be so excited for the Container Store. Oh my goodness.
John Tripp said, "Sweet Jenny D merch." Thank you. This is the first time she's done like clothing merch, and my sweatshirt came in, and I also now have my 2023 Jenny D calendar. But that's not the thing that I went to go get off screen. The thing I went to go get off screen, talking about how amazing our community is and loves us and supports us, picking up things from the P.O. box. I just got a surprise package that I think both of you are going to love that showed up at my P.O. box from one of our favorite camp co-opers, Srebme. I got these bug stickers to make any game cute now.
Wait, can we play
Can we
Crokinole
play
now?
Crokinole?
Yes. I literally got these in the mail from her, so
I
that
haven't-
now, and they're even colored, that I think we can do like green bugs versus like red and yellow bugs or something. That we can even like go by a color palette, but now we have bugs to make Crokinole better.
Oh
I
my
have extra
goodness.
sets of Crokinole pieces I will happily devote to bug stickers to play Crokinole.
Thank you, Stubby. These were so cute when I saw them because some of them have such like little faces.
Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways, we are closing in an hour and a half shortly, so Devin, where are you at with this stuff?
Just the last thing I was just gonna
The
say.
sense of pressure. The sense of pressure when I'm talking, it's the worst.
I'll skip really talking about makes you learn new skill sets. I think that's just kind of self-explanatory. It does make you like widen your professional like catalog of what you're comfortable with. The last thing I'll just say is it helps you grow as an individual. Because in this kind of hard, Meg, I won't actually ruin it, but Meg had a conversation particularly about a gaming experience for her that actually like shifted kind of like what she felt comfortable with as a person and really helped her grow. And I would like to like widen that out and, zoom out and say that that's not necessarily just any one particular game, but just pushing into this hobby more and more. And I mean that in the sense that, going back to the negative thing, that we were talking about previously with the dealing with interactions online. It takes like a certain level of like social maturity to not clap back. Like, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm a mouthy person. I can say some stuff if I want to say some stuff. And the decision not to is a continual like reining in of my instincts. Like I would love to get into a clapback with literally anybody who wants to fight. Like I can use words gooder sometimes. And I'm happy to do it. But that just makes me a better person. And maybe it's that like my shift into this has also been timing wise as I've started to build a family and shift to being a parent. Because some of my mindset of how I act also, I have a focus of like I have kids that are not only watching, but kids that I'm trying to like, I want them to emulate good behavior. But I do actually think that my experience in this board game space has made me broaden my horizons of things that I think, of people's circumstances that I try to be more aware of. I have met so many more Jews, guys, like way more Jews. Like numerically, the amount of Jews that I have hung out with is like way more. So just
the
like,
pros
yeah.
or con section.
Yes, both. Why not both? But I think that like genuinely I have grown as a person, and I think that a lot of different life circumstances can attribute to that for different people in different walks of life. But for me, it's definitely, I think it's helped me become or maybe solidify more who I am or become more who I am. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I used to clap back. Especially in like 2020, I used to come back at people, and I used to do the thing because I grew on Instagram, and on Instagram you have your stories that expire, that I would sometimes like screenshot a comment and then put it in my stories and be like, why would someone say this, blah blah blah. And a lot of times when that would happen, a bunch of people would start replying to me being like, why would someone do that to you? And then I have to go through explaining like why someone would treat me like that. And it was just like such a slippery slope that I was like, this is absolutely not worth engaging in whatsoever. Especially because, like we said, some of the comments I would get, someone would say something snarky about like me looking sexy or something, and then me being like, hey, that's really inappropriate, and then them being like, it's just a joke, you actually think you're sexy.
Oh, I hate
and then
the-
it's like
I
a
hate
whole
these as a
thing.
joke crowd. I hate
Yeah.
these as a joke crowd. Oh,
So it's like, it's just not worth engaging in them ever, because no matter what, there's like that way to turn around the thing that you're trying to point out that's wrong, and then they're like, oh, but it's not wrong because you're an idiot. And it's just like,
yeah.
okay, I have no time.
I've had to disengage in a few different. There are a few things I used to do, and I try to do it less and less, and for different reasons. I used to be a big fan of pinning insulting comments. Like, you want to go ahead and comment on, whatever like thing. I'll pin it because I think it's funny. Like, I'll own the criticism. The problem
I'm
with
too
that.
sensitive for that.
So my problem with that is that as you get larger, you then have a large audience of people who want to support you, and they can be more aggressively mean toward the person. And I was just trying to like own it, like, oh, I'm not going to be insulted. and then they get attacked, and like it does feel disproportionate. It feels like you said one thing as an individual, and now you have 15 people going at you. So I've had to stop doing that because it feels imbalanced. A big one for me is just the lack of time. I like engaging with people. I do. I really, really like engaging politely, but also hopefully witty. I had this one guy, I told you two of you this, but I had this one guy like 2 weeks ago who commented on a video saying, "Hey, you know what? Like, it's pretty clear that you didn't like this game, so like I appreciate that you tried covering it, but I really wish your review had been unbiased." And I'm like, yes, I didn't like the game. I'm not entirely sure what you're looking for from an unbiased review. But like I didn't engage. I just like, because the problem I have is that very often if I engage, then they reply, and then once I reply the first time, if I don't reply the first time, who cares? If I reply the first time and you reply back to me, then I feel the need to reply, and then I'm going to keep going and keep going, and I just don't have time for that kind of derailing of a conversation. I do still occasionally clap back at people. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I do try more and more to just not engage as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's for sure the case.
And Reha Games, Meg is definitely officially part of Board Game Co. like Devin, arguably before Devin, depending on how you want to look at it. You are a bit behind because you like abandoned the channel, okay? Shira left and you took your attention and eyes elsewhere, and I still never have gotten over it, just for the record.
Your attention and eyes.
But go ahead, Devin, sorry.
What was I going to say?
Or that.
I will say, talking about clapping back, the one time that I still really love doing it is when people like point out like, oh, you cheated, or oh, you did this wrong, and I'm like, no, I didn't, and here's all of the rules why this is acceptable. So those are the ones that I definitely still engage in, because I love being like, no, this is right, this is how you're supposed to play it. And sometimes I've learned things that I wasn't playing correctly, and I appreciate that. So that also goes both ways.
Yeah. With that, I think we're hitting an hour and a half, which has been delightful, honestly. I thought we were going to close early, but this conversation took a long, long turn. But that said, we're going to go ahead and close this up. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. You are all awesome. For the record, I can speak for myself, and I assume I'm speaking for Devin and Meg too, but like, the only reason I'm comfortable having this level and this type of conversation is because I feel comfortable with basically everyone here. The audience in general, both on Board Game Co., on Camp Co-op, on Devin Talks Tabletop, on Professor Meg, you're all pretty awesome. The only way you feel comfortable complaining is when you're complaining to friends. And you're very supportive, you're very encouraging, and there's a lot of reasons we do this. There's a lot of reasons that will compel you in different aspects. Some of the things on my end, actually, I'm going to end on one of the last things. I'm going to end on one of the other highs, and then Devin and Meg can be like, wait, no, me too.
Wait, no, me too.
I get the occasional email or comment here and there that is so heartfelt and so off the top that it really makes everything worth it. I have gotten comments from somebody who said, I started watching your channel when my kid was going through, chemo in the hospital every day, and your video was the thing I looked forward to every single day to like take me out of all the hospital stuff and into normalcy. And I watched you for like 4 months straight in the hospital. I've gotten comments from people who talked about how they got their, parents into the hobby through watching my videos, and now they spend more time with their parents that they never did before. Every once in a while, I get an email or a comment that really drives home the actual impact and positive meaning you can have on another person that you never, ever realized you could. Just recently at PAX, I ran into a few people who have been watching me since the beginning, for 3 years, that they talk about how I've been a part of their journey into board games. And it feels so impactful to not even realize the impact you're having, and to kind of just find out one day. It's almost like a job where you didn't realize what was going on, but suddenly you find out that all this work you've been doing has had a payoff that you never understood the dividends of. And from all the things that make you wonder whether it's worth doing a video one day or the next, is it worth popping out this other video? I had a question yesterday for somebody else who said, how many views do you need for a video to be worth it? And I said, it's not like there's a larger conversation around numbers and this and that, but like some of it's you do the video because this is the thing you do. This is the audience you have. These are the people you interact with. I can't imagine not doing the videos I do and engaging with the audience in the ways that I do. It is incredibly meaningful in so many different ways. Yeah, that's my last pro.
Yeah, I'll end with something similar. I just recently got an email sent to me by a subscriber, and it says, Devin, when you monologue in your videos, it is almost as if you are single-handedly contributing to the depletion of the ozone layer. And
Are you serious?
at times, what you are saying... No, I'm just making that up.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I was going to see how long I could go before you guys wanted
I was so confused. I thought I hit cancel send on that email. Anyways, and with that, speaking to a callback earlier to this conversation, we have Henry Audubon in the chat. Hey, Henry. We still need to play a game together.
We do.
With
We
that,
do.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. Thank you all for being here, and we'll be here again next week. Actually, will we be here next week? Is that we're still here next week? I assume?
it's the
I'll be
28th. That's
Yeah.
not meaningful as a date to me at all. So
Christmas-
other than spending time with you guys.
Hanukkah's 8 days long, so like I don't know the whole.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's 8 days long.
I do believe, guys, we will be switching officially to 1 p.m. going
Yes.
forward, just like we did today. So we will be pre-scheduling it, so you'll see it in your subscription feed ahead of time. But we will be streaming a bit later on to hopefully catch our West Coast friends. And we'll do that for maybe a month and a half, and see how it goes. And assuming that works, we'll stay at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll talk.
Love
to
you guys
later.
so much. Appreciate
Happy
all of you.
holidays! I hope Santa's
After this.
with you.